Hi everyone, welcome back to Light Up the Woods, my YouTube channel. I am very glad to see you here again, or for the first time if it's your first time. So today we're gonna do part 2 of Mel and Shane's testimony, and it's Shane's part today. But before we get into that, we're gonna play that intro so we can get the song stuck in your head. Here we go.
Light up the woods, light up the woods. One syllable at a time. Light up the woods, light up the woods. One video at a time. Light up the woods, light up the woods. One syllable at a time. Light up the woods, light up the woods. One video at a time.
Open and they were set free. So instead of just beating yourself down in adversity, rejoice. It might pull you out. It will. We've seen it in the Bible. It will pull you out. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And I'm just amazed at what God has been doing in Mel's life. And you've heard her journey to this point. And I have a journey as well that I want to testify about God's work, because I also took a leap of faith that I believed allowed me to be able to be in this place right now, as an engaged man to this beautiful woman. I grew up in a Christian home. Growing up, my parents would bring out the Bible and we'd have to memorize the Bible, and it was that kind of household. And my two younger siblings as well, we were all raised to know the Lord. However, in my teen years, I really felt like my relationship with God was based on my parents' relationship, and I strayed away. But eventually God had drawn me back to him. He pulled me back from an encounter that I had going on a random church trip. My mom was always signing me up for these church trips, oh God. But I decided to go because there was going to be some good food and maybe I would meet some girls. And I went, and can I tell you, like, the Holy Spirit just transformed my life. I was 17 at the time. And he just began to strip out things out of my life that needed to go.
Yeah.
And I felt a call to ministry. And I came into ministry. I went to college to study pastoral ministry. That's actually where I met Woods. And we went to college, and it was an amazing time. However, I realized that there were still areas in my life that God needed to work on. So I remember, I'm a leader in ministry, in Boston, youth minister, all these kind of things. And then I moved back to New York, and I was leading different ministries, youth ministries, young adult ministry. And the interesting thing for me was that it's so easy to be doing things for God, but not necessarily taking the time in the midst of that to nurture your own soul, your own spirit. You can be given and given and given. And because of that, burnout comes. And because of that, you become susceptible at times to the enemy. And so for me, the Lord brought me to a place where I was able to see that there were areas that I was opening up myself to the enemy that I wasn't even aware of. Some of the things that the Lord brought me out of in my teenage years dealt with, like, immorality. Let's talk about some real stuff here. I was involved with pornography, sex outside of marriage, which the Bible calls fornication or sexual immorality. Some of those things that people don't want to talk about in church. But we got to talk about these issues because there are people that are struggling.
And they're suffering.
Like I was,
silence.
What I'm saying? And they don't have nobody to talk to. And so, mind you, I'm in a leadership position, and I'm a leader, in church. And God is telling me, Shane, I need you to think about some of these things that are becoming a part of your life that are beginning to hinder you. And I began to pray and think about it. And it became very clear that the Lord wanted me to take some time away from leadership, to focus on myself, focus on my healing, and also to uproot some stuff that the enemy was trying to, in a sense, replant in my life that I thought was dealt with. It was very clear that there were some things that I needed to work on, especially in the area of my purity, because I saw that it was actually damaging relationships that I was involved in. You know, why was it every time I'm getting into a relationship with a nice young lady, certain patterns keep coming back into the relationship that begin to destroy or begin to eat away at the relationship. And it was very clear that God wanted me to take some time away to work on myself. However, you know, at the time, the reason why I refer to it as a leap of faith is because, you know, it's not easy as a leader having to get to a place where you need to let other people know, okay, guys, I need to take some time for myself to deal with issues in my life. And I need to be my best self. You know, I'm struggling in certain areas and I need to take some time for myself to be whole. Because at the end of the day, God is not looking at titles. He's not looking at how many people liked you. He's not looking at, you know, how many people you were able to please. He's looking at where my heart relationship with him is at the end of the day. You know, and so I humbled myself. You know, I was in a relationship at the time. I had to let that person know that I was dealing with certain stuff, and it was like God kind of forcing me to talk about what was going on in my life. And then, you know, I had to come out of that relationship, you know, let my leaders know, like, this is what's going on with me. I need to take some more time for myself. I'm struggling. You know, I even felt a little depressed. You know, all those things were going on. And by God's grace, they all understood. They allowed me to go away. You know, I went away to spend some time with my family in Jamaica, which is where Mel is originally from as well. And it's funny because I think when I went, she was there too, getting prepared for the transition or the leap of faith that God was going to bring her to. And it was just a freeing experience because sometimes, you know, we're so scared to talk about things that we're dealing with. Sometimes we feel like, you know, we're the only one going through some of the things that we're dealing with, especially with some of those things like that, dealing with your purity and sexual purity and those kind of things. But what I realized is when I actually took that leap of faith to just tell people what's really going on with me and be honest about everything,
being transparent.
transparent, it was like God was just carrying me and covering me and showing me how much he loved me and that he was going to do the work that needed to be done in me. All I needed to do was just allow him to do it instead of fighting the process. Allow him to do it instead of fighting the process. Allow him to do it instead of fighting the process. And so I went to Jamaica, spent some time with my family out there. I went into counseling and, you know, I was able to learn a lot about myself. I was able to learn a lot about what God wanted to do in my life that I wasn't hearing because I was so busy doing what I thought I was supposed to be doing. When in all actuality, God was trying to get me to focus on other things. And so it's like sometimes we actually got to pause and allow God to speak to us instead of trying to just do it on our own strength. Because let me tell you, it's a lot more easier when you do it God's way instead of your way. A lot of times we end up going in circles, and I saw that in my life, just repeat patterns, like trying to do these things, the cycles over and over. When if I just gave it to God in the first place, I would probably have avoided a lot of hurts or breakups, the things that I had to go through, those painful experiences. But I learned, you know, and thankfully God was able to show me a lot of the things that I needed to work on. And so I went through a healing process when I spent that time in Jamaica with my family, and I was able to come back. And it was interesting because it's like the ministry opportunities that I have now are like on greater scales or even more. And God is still preparing me, and I believe that God is continuing to work on me. And you know, it's interesting because in the midst of that, God was preparing me for Mel, because I didn't even know that this girl existed. You know, I didn't know life could be so good, you know, and it was just amazing to see the process of me allowing God to work on me, to make sure that I am whole mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and physically in those kind of ways, and just allowing God's Spirit to do the work in me, to prepare me. And so as Mel mentioned, I was able, after I went through that period of healing, of humbling myself and just allowing God to do that, I met Mel shortly after. So I came back to New York. It was in 2019, towards the beginning, I believe, and you know, got reoriented in New York life after living in Jamaica for a couple months. The longest I've lived there was probably like 2 weeks, and then shortly after the year ended, I met Mel in February of 2020.
Yeah, and I'm just realizing when you came back to New York, I'm just coming in too.
Yeah. It's like
really?
that leap of faith. It was just amazing.
Would you look at how you looking?
You know, and so I mean, God is good, you know, and so I mean, we're a young couple, and God has been helping us to just really, in a sense, live our lives in a way that people can look at us and see realness, you know, see what it looks like for a young couple to serve the Lord. And you know, we keep it real. You know, it's of course it's not easy when, you know, you're with an attractive lady like this, but God has been faithful, and he's given us the tools and continues to give us the tools to make sure we're guarding ourselves, guarding our purity in this season, and just learning from each other and growing as leaders. Like, she's an incredible leader. She talked about PIP Ministry, which is Pain into Purpose Ministry, on IG. You can follow. You know, it's just amazing what God has been doing. And so, you know, I give God the glory, because, I mean, I'm telling you, sometimes you think some of the things that God is asking you to do is like the worst thing ever. How can I share this stuff that I'm going, like, who, everybody's gonna judge me. Let me tell you,
that is the enemy.
You know what I'm saying?
Definitely. And to add to that, to get to this place, it was not easy, because coming into a relationship from different backgrounds, different experiences, and our past combined, it wasn't easy to just gel completely. I mean, we
All right, so we're going to end it right there. So that was part 2 of this testimony. Next time, we're going to have part 3, where we talk about the joining and how their big leaps led to each other and where God is leading them from that point forward. Thank you for watching. Go ahead and comment, share your thoughts, share your feelings, and I will see you next time. But until I see you again, you have a duty to shine your light in this world. So go on and light up the world. Bye.
Light up the woods, light up the woods. One syllable at a time. Light up the woods, light up the woods. One video at a time.